Section 3, Token Generation with Solidity. Video 1, Short Intro to the Web3 Library. So before I let Harsha take it away with getting started with token generation using Solidity, I actually just wanted to go over what the Web3 library is and how it's really just revolutionizing blockchain development. So Web3 refers to the next generation of the World Wide Web, preferably the World Wide Web when there's going to be a lot more decentralization and people will be using cryptocurrencies more often. So this is really just an early look into what the World Wide Web will be like. So it has adopted the Ethereum ecosystem and transitions to the decentralized web. So the Web3 is built purely on the Ethereum blockchain, and Web3 has a bunch of these collections of modules which contain specific functions for the Ethereum ecosystem. Basically, Web3 is used in blockchain development with Ethereum, which is why we need to have a basic understanding of Web3 before we actually start using it in our future project. So decentralized application development will become a preferred choice in good time. So although decentralized application development is just getting started right now and blockchain is relatively new, it is something that will become very popular with various companies that I have gone over in Section 1 in a very good amount of time. So it has been catching steam pretty quickly right now, and a lot of companies are on notice about blockchain. But there is still some time to go, but right now is the time to jump on and start experimenting with Web3 as well as also blockchain development. So what are some uses for the Web3 library? How will we be using the Web3 library more specifically? We are going to be using Web3-ETH often. So when you see me coding, when we actually start working on our first smart contract, you may see me using Web3-ETH. Web3-ETH is used for Ethereum blockchain and smart contracts and basically gives us access to some of those modules through the Web3 library. We can also use it with Ganesh to create mock accounts for testing a smart contract, which we will also get into when we start testing with Mocha on our first smart contract. It can also utilize various methods to interact with smart contracts. All those collections of modules have specific methods that you can call that can do a lot of interesting things to certain parts of code. It can also inject a custom provider for deployment if you want to deploy directly from your MetaMask account, for example. It can dictate how much Ether to transfer to which account or how much to deduct. So you can specify which account you want Ether sent to or how much you want taken away from it in a transaction. It can also convert Ether to Wei and Wei to Ether. As you will actually see later on, we will use a 2-Wei or 2-Ether, but mostly 2-Wei in order to convert Wei to Ether. It also has asynchronous data sending, but this is only common in Web3 version 1.0. Previous versions of Web3 do not support asynchronous data sending, so this is actually a big feature of 1.0, and I would suggest you look into it and start learning promises if you haven't tackled promises yet, but it supports asynchronous data sending with promises. So it's a really cool thing for Web3 to have that in because it makes manipulating and also interacting with contracts while deployed directly onto the Rinkeby test network, for example, really handy. So just a quick note here because I've actually ran into numerous problems here when I was not paying attention to the version. But the Web3 version changes very quickly. There are always new updates coming to Web3. So the version that you have may actually change the way that you actually code when you interact with it. So make sure that you know what version you're using and be sure to read the documentation of the version that you are using to understand how to actually code with that version. And also be sure to stay informed on certain updates that might be coming because you don't know what might be changing in the future. So how do you get Web3? Well, simply put, you can just do a quick npm install right into your directory after you initialize Node. Before a specific version, you would have to do an npm install web3 at and then do the version, which is normally followed by numerous periods in between each number. But there are also beta versions. For example, you can actually get access to 1.0 beta. To do that, you would actually just do a very similar npm install of Web3, but at the end of the version, you would actually do a -beta followed by a period and the number. There's also the documentation of Web3, which you can actually read down over here, which we will also take a quick look at. So over here, you can actually see what I mentioned before. regarding Web3-ETH for Ethereum blockchain. You can see a lot of API references over here, like for contract, and also how you would actually call contract and what you would pass in here with the promise, specifying the from as well as also the gas price. So yeah, I would definitely recommend you read through this documentation here. It's really handy and it will get you really up to speed with using Web3. So that's basically the Web3 documentation. I highly recommend looking through it.